yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
In answer to his question about the subjects.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Oh, what a compliment. For that, I thank you.
What is happening now? There are homeless and hungry.
Now it's time for us to stand up for God or we'll fall to nothing.
It's time now for Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Listening to the general public, what the public is saying.
Good afternoon and welcome to Talk Today. My name is Patrick Schmid and I'm standing in for Sterling Dweeny Banks. It's my pleasure to be here with you in spite of the fact that we are in slightly different circumstances, perhaps not the most desirable circumstances, but perhaps the safest circumstances that we can be in given the ongoing issues relating to the coronavirus. I am hoping that during the course of this relatively short Talk Today session, because we will be joined by the usual press briefing at 2 o'clock, that we will have an opportunity to discuss various issues affecting you and, of course, throughout our three islands and get your opinions on everything that has transpired thus far. So just after this commercial break, we'll be right back and stay tuned to Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Live Communication.
Let your voice be heard.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Welcome back to Talk Today. Again, my name is Patrick Schmid and I'm filling in for Sterling Dweeny Banks, who may well be joining us via satellite. I'm certainly hoping that he'll be able to participate with us. That having been said, as I mentioned earlier, the primary purpose of today's Talk Today, we don't have any guests scheduled. It is a shortened version of the Talk Today program, but we are hoping to get from our listening audience as much participation as possible so that we can have an idea of what everyone is experiencing throughout the course of the measures that are being taken in order to suppress the spread of the coronavirus here in the Cayman Islands. And of course, we are interested to hear from everyone out there throughout the 5 districts in Grand Cayman, as well as, of course, our important sister islands. We don't hear as much about them, but we know that they are also subject to the ongoing curfew, which began at 7 p.m. yesterday evening and will continue until 5 a.m. this Saturday, unless otherwise extended by the Premier and the government. And we'll hear from them at 2 o'clock, as I mentioned earlier. You've already been reminded of the numbers to call in. Please feel free to call in whenever the topic that you wish to speak of comes to mind. But in the meantime, I would take the opportunity to say that there's a great deal of information that's out there now, and every day, of course, there's increasing amounts of information that is being posted. A lot of it is what is generally referred to now as fake news, and it has been encouraged that we avoid paying too much attention to the television generally, but certainly to social media, and to focus our concerns, our questions to official sources. And here in the Cayman Islands, we're very fortunate that our civil service, our government, and of course the ever going Radio Cayman, to be provided with a great deal of information, and a number of specific numbers have telephone numbers, as well as websites and email addresses have been set up for the purposes of assisting anyone who might be in any sort of need. If I could just quickly recap, for the benefit of everyone in the listening audience, just the most important contact details to bear in mind. Firstly, the HSA, you can email them on flu@hsa.ky, or access general information on hsa.ky/coronavirus. You can also call them toll free on their 24-hour flu hotline if you believe you have any symptoms and you want to ask questions of a medically trained person on 1-800-534-8600 or on 947-3077. If you have a medical emergency, of course, please dial 911. If you have non-medical questions, then the relevant persons to contact are actually at our National Emergency Operations Center. The hotline for that center is 1-800-534-6555, or if you wish to send an email, it's neoc@gov.ky. Also, just a reminder that if you do have internet access, whether it's on your phone or otherwise, you can access all of the current and most relevant information, including information which is being transmitted from the World Health Organization as well as the Center for Disease Control, by accessing gov.ky/coronavirus. And again, you will see there these contact numbers that I've just read to you, as well as frequently asked questions list, which should provide you with a great deal of detail regarding any questions that you may have unanswered. There's also, importantly, a mental health helpline, because this is a very stressful time for most people, even though we're, I think, all doing our best to take it one day at a time. That mental health helpline is available Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, and the number is 1-800-534-6463. If you have additional questions, then there are additional numbers, but by all means, please feel free to call in and ask, and we'll be more than happy to assist to the extent that we have that information available, or if we don't, then we will find the information for you. In relation to the curfew itself, you can send emails asking questions, in particular if you are an operator of a business or a person who otherwise believes they should be classified as an essential person and given a pass to move about as and when necessary. You can email curfew time, so curfewtime @gov.ky. So I think for now, that's probably a lot of information to digest, but again, one of the most important purposes today is really to be able to talk to our fellow Caymanians, to be able to get off our chest, so to speak, any issues that we might have, any concerns we may have, to get a feel from you as to how things are like under this, certainly in my lifetime, first curfew ever, that for any substantial period of time, and certainly for the purposes of a pandemic. Are you coping okay? Did you have enough time to prepare for it? Do you think that everything that needs to be done is being done? Do you have any questions or what you might think are viable considerations to be borne in mind that have not yet been voiced, or perhaps you have not yet heard of it, but the information may be out there and we might be able to assist you in reaching that advice. Also, at some point, if depending on the direction that we get from our listening audience, from yourselves, from my fellow Caymanians, my fellow residents of the Cayman Islands, then we can look at how other countries are dealing with the pandemic, and in particular those countries that are reporting relatively good numbers, if there's such a thing with pandemics. But for example, I'm referring to circumstances such as the arrangements that have been made and the statistics emanating from countries like Germany and Switzerland and South Korea, who have, although they have extremely high infection rates, they seem to be doing something right in terms of the care that's been given to their people, because the mortality rate is significantly below the global average. In Germany, in particular, I believe that's the world's current best mortality rate, so to speak. 0.5% of those who have been confirmed infected persons of COVID-19 are passing, and most of those persons are also suffering from chronic illnesses. So the combination of the respiratory complications brought on by COVID-19 together with their chronic illness is what apparently is causing those deaths. But by and large, they're having people recover, which of course means that those persons are subsequently developing antibodies and so on. And it is my understanding, though I'm definitely not a medically trained person, it is my understanding that persons who have recovered from the coronavirus are then able to come back into the community after a certain period of time and assist those who may be infected or suspecting infection, because they are no longer they are no longer susceptible to the effect of the virus. So obviously, I think that along with the economic considerations and social considerations come together to make the reason why the Cayman Islands government has taken the strong actions that it has done. So we're going to go now to a commercial break and be back momentarily. Please stay tuned to Talk Today.
We understand that things are different, and we are committed to providing you with the service that you need with convenience through our MyCUC online portal. Working remotely and students being home from school doesn't have to mean higher electricity bills. Monitor and manage your energy consumption by using our Customer Connect energy management tool. This allows you to track and make adjustments to your energy usage to avoid consuming high amounts of electricity and keep your electricity bill lower. Protect your health and the health of others by avoiding crowds and using PowerPay to manage payments for accounts from wherever you are most comfortable. If you're not signed up for MyCUC as yet, it's quick and easy. Just contact our customer service team at service@cuc.ky or 949-5200 today. Remember, we're all in this together, and you've got the power to make a difference.
The Cayman Islands government has implemented a curfew for all 3 islands until 5 a.m. Saturday, the 28th of March. The extension of the curfew measure prohibits movement outside the home by all but essential personnel. It comes in the interest of public health and welfare of the community. The Honorable Premier Alden McLaughlin urges Caymanians and residents to strictly abide by the curfew, saying the decision to extend the curfew was taken as an immediate solution in the interest of the health and welfare of the community and to suppress transmission of COVID-19 as quickly as possible. The RCIPS will actively be enforcing the curfew and have already implemented significant community patrols. Anyone with inquiries as to whether they are an essential business and how they can be so designated should contact via email at curfewtime@gov.ky. That's curfewtime@gov.ky. Once again, the Cayman Islands government has implemented an extended curfew for all 3 islands until 5 a.m. on Saturday, the 28th of March. This has been a public service announcement from Radio Cayman, your official radio station in the Cayman Islands.
Bring a little bit of luck to your house with Lucky Slice from America. Burgers, steak, and the all-day American breakfast. From Europe, fish and chips, pizza and crepes. And from Asia, sushi.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, 7 days a week, delivery or pickup, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. In these difficult times, we can all use a little bit of luck. Keep calm and stay lucky.
Minimize contact. Make your credit card payment by phone. Pay only for food. No delivery fee. No service charge. Certain restrictions apply. Call Lucky Slice Pizza Pizza to place your delivery order now. 949-3456.
Order from K-Man Creperie, Mojo Sushi, and Lucky Slice Pizza. Call 949-3456.
Radio K-Man News.
Local grocery stores are forced to implement product limits after panic buying by
The
residents.
government is taking in all seriousness the magnitude and the severity of this matter.
A reminder from the Chief Medical Officer, all people who have arrived on flights are required to self-isolate.
I think the most likely decision 3 weeks from now is an extension of the current state.
Radio K-Man, your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
This is a public service announcement from your Radio K-Man, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Home isolation means staying indoors and completely avoiding contact with other people. You need to do this if you have symptoms of COVID-19. If you are practicing home isolation, you should stay in a well-ventilated room with a window to outside that can be opened separate from other people in your home. Keep the door closed and use a separate bathroom from the rest of the household, if available. If you have to share these facilities, regular sterilization will be required. Consider drawing up a bathroom schedule for washing or bathing and have the isolated person using the facilities last.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
The Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS, is providing the following non-emergency numbers for weekdays: 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please call 925-5120 or 926-6853, Grand Cayman, and 929-7932, Cayman Brac. For the department's critical services assistance, including child protection by the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, call 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545 or email mash@gov.ky. To access critical services supporting the protection of the elderly, email DCFS Elderly Services@gov.ky. For emergencies, please call 911.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio K-Man's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Again, my name is Patrick Schmid. I'm filling in for Sterling Dweeney Banks. It's my pleasure to be with you here on this Thursday, the 26th day of March. And I believe we have a caller on the line, Miss Susan. Is that correct? Can we go directly to the caller? Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Schmid.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing today?
Relaxing there, listening and trying to find solutions to things.
All right, sir. Well, I wish you a lot of luck with that one.
Yeah.
But certainly the relaxing is very good.
Well, there's several things that cures in a way I've used, and one difficult I find is that they are so easy that people do not want to believe it. And I can mention a few first before I come to the real thing about the corona. And then the one that hearing can judge or use it, and then they will find out that it works wonderfully.
Okay.
Now, years ago, I had my hand all hurt and was swollen up all black and blue. And I went to the doctor. They wanted to cut it and all that. And old Simon told me, say, go home and piss on it. What? So I did what he said, went home and got a little pan with some urine. Huh? Is that, well, okay, that's right with urine.
Right, sir.
And it brought down the swelling better than anything I would go to hospital. Right? Another thing that I mentioned before in the program is so many people suffering with arthritis. And I mentioned before, you rub down your body with peanut oil once a week, and it will cure your arthritis. You know, but I know maybe my dear mother, it took me a month and a dozen phone calls just to persuade her to rub some peanut oil on her. I had her shoulder. Then she's saying how good it works. You know?
Yes, sir. Well, you know that typically people are not very kind to change or don't like the idea of change. So I can certainly understand what you're saying.
No, it's not even a change. It's a natural. I mean, it's something new. It's just that I can't understand why people and they say, "Oh, that can't work. It's too easy." You know?
Right.
It's like salvation. You know, not be selfish and love your fellow man. It can hardly be any simpler than that, and yet people cannot find salvation. You got to do this. You must eat this. You go this Sunday, and
Yes, sir.
Another one, and one more, and then I get to the corona thing there, please.
Of course, sir.
Is the cancer. I have mentioned to several cancer societies, when they come down doing lectures, I say to them that if you eat half dozen almonds a day, you will not get cancer. Now, I don't say cure cancer, but it prevents cancer. Right? Now, this information comes from God. Oh, what does God know? He can't cure, But I believe in him, more or less. Most people don't. And they try to eat almonds. They tried to tell me I had cancer years ago. And I said, Doc, I can't have cancer because I eat almonds all the time. Oh, no, you got to do chemo. Well, I took piece like a grain of rice and one X-ray and went to Cuba. And less than 15 minutes just looking at that little piece off my liver, they could tell me it was not cancer.
Right,
and I also found out something else, that there is a situation, infection that looks a lot like cancer, right? Now, I've been to several of these meetings with the cancer people come down and say, well, let the people know. Eat almonds. I mean, cannot be any harm in eating almonds. And, you know how much money we're going to lose with donations, if we want a cure for cancer? That seems to be the attitude.
I lost you there, sir. When you said who will lose money in donations?
These cancer societies are collecting for trying to find a cure for cancer.
I see.
That's the only reason I can see, because, I mean, at least tell the people to try eating almonds. What harm can there be in that?
Right.
They won't even tell the people that.
What I would like to say, sir, is that, of course, as you know, I'm not medically qualified, but we've had the benefit of information, very good information from highly medically qualified persons throughout the islands who have come in particular in relation to the coronavirus, but who have spoken generally about other illnesses which can, of course, be complicated by the virus. And what they've indicated is that, firstly, with respect to cancer, there are so many different types of cancer, but there are definitely home remedies that can help the body to become stronger, as we know. And so I'm not knocking what you're saying at all. I'm just saying that the advice, of course, at the end of the day, is that the doctors are all of the opinion, fairly unanimously, I would say, that in spite of being able to use certain home remedies, you will still the best proven treatment over a course of time is the treatments that have been duly approved and been through the various testing and so on, sir. But I don't want to delay you too long on that particular point. You said you wanted to make a point with respect to the coronavirus?
What I'm saying is not come from me. I am no medical doctor, anything, right?
Yes, sir, I understand.
This comes from God.
Okay.
Right? You ever heard of the sleeping prophet?
Yes.
God spoke a lot through him while he was sleeping. He healed thousands of people that the best doctors could not cure with very simple remedies. Right? And you can go on his book, The Little Black Book of Cure, you find a lot of things there that are very easy. Like, if you got constipation or diarrhea, or when women having that bad time in the month, just drink a cup of plantain leaf tea.
Yes, sir.
And it cures it.
So,
Right? But
is there anything in the book about coronavirus, sir?
No, but I'm not sure. It's something I would like them to try. What I always use for me and my children when we get the flu was blend up the aloe vera with honey and orange juice and drink like a half a cup every couple hours. Now, since this is similar to the influenza, I don't see any harm in having the patients, drink this.
Right.
You know, it's not hard to find orange juice or honey and aloe vera all over the place. There's no harm in blending some up and have them drink. We have a few here now with it. If it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. No harm done.
Right, sir.
But it may be a way to cure them. So why don't they at least try it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, I'm sure that there are many persons that are medically qualified and that are listening in. But you're quite right that any thing which contains vitamin C is known to support the immune system of the body, of the human body, and therefore, from that perspective, you're absolutely correct. There certainly would be no harm in an aloe vera orange juice honey mix. But I'd like to thank you very much for your contribution, sir. Unfortunately, I have to leave you there because we need to go to a commercial break. But again, thank you for your call. It's much appreciated, and I hope that you can relax for the rest of the curfew period.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Hi, my name is Neraya LeBlanc. I am the minister and evangelist to the West Bay Church of Christ on 24 Batabano Road. I would love to take this opportunity to invite you to experience God's family at West Bay for yourself. We are a caring congregation that strongly believes in reaching out beyond ourselves to spread the gospel of Christ. We also take great pleasure in ministering to the needs of our people in our community. As God's called out kingdom people, we are in the business of transforming lives for the Master's use. For more information, you can visit our website at westbaycichurchofchrist.org or call us at 946-9294 or 917-1809.
Declaring the word of the Lord. Cayman Islands Church of Christ presents Word of the Lord.
Word of the Lord, heard Sundays at 6:30 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
This is a public service announcement from your Radio Cayman, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Self-isolation is an effective precautionary measure to protect those around you, your family, friends, and colleagues from contracting COVID-19. You or the person you are caring for should remain in your home except for getting medical care. Do not go to work, school, or public areas. You will need to ask for help if you require groceries, other shopping, or medications. Please seek the advice from the Public Health Department.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
The Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS, is providing the following non-emergency numbers for weekdays: 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please call 925-5120 or 926-6853, Grand Cayman, and 929-7932, Cayman Brac. For the department's critical services assistance, including child protection by the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, call 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545 or email mash@gov.ky. To access critical services supporting the protection of the elderly, email dcfselderlyservices@gov.ky. For emergencies, please call 911.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. This is Patrick Schmid sitting in for Sterling Dwayne Banks, who hopefully will be joining us at some point during the course of this afternoon. I believe we have a caller on the line, and so we'll just go directly to that caller. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good.
You're talking about the most important topic concerning everyone in this country.
Yes, sir.
The coronavirus, when enter any country or start in any country, start in 5 stages. The first stage, which is we pass that stage, which we report in the beginning, was 0 cases. Then we record the first case with the Italian. We gone in the second stage, which we have more than 1 case. Government try to do their best. I think I applaud them for what they done. I think they done a very fantastic job. I respect what the Honorable Premier Alden McLaughlin doing. The response was from the government was very good. Italy is now in the 5th stage, which is that the disease spread everywhere in the country. I think we need now to take a decision to take 14 days, close down everything in this country, close down businesses everywhere, nobody leave his house for 14 days. And that's a step need to be taken unless we reach to the 3rd stage, which is start spreading everywhere in the island. And I think that is where the danger will start. And as much we are in the beginning of the 1st and 2nd stage, we are still safer. But if we move to the 3rd stage, that is the danger, which is I done my research very well about this disease, and I think we are in the safe stage, in the 2nd stage, which is we have quite a few cases. People don't understand that this disease, even if you catch it from, for example, if you've gone to a hospital which is have this disease, and even if you catch it in your shoes and you carry it home, that's where the danger come from. We need a 14 days quarantine for people to stay home. Those 14 days, which is the life of the virus, when start from during those 14 days, the symptom of the disease can show, and that's where when you do a quarantine for your people for 14 days, then you make the disease in one place, not spread everywhere in this country. I know business people concerned, but when in this country ever the business people concerned about us? That's my question I want to ask to those business people.
Yes, sir, I understand. And as a matter of fact, there has been discussion about that, and there was recently a press release done by the Chamber of Commerce, but we may even hear from them directly in short order. However, I don't want to necessarily promise something that I might not be able to fulfill. But what I will say is that I hear what you're saying, certainly, and I understand your concern and the mention of the 14-day period. It is my belief and my understanding that the current lockdown, if you will, or extended curfew is indeed another step in the stage that the government is stages that the government is taking in order to ascertain the extent of the existence of the virus within the community, so that they would know what direction to go in at thereafter. Because if it becomes if it becomes obvious that it has spread more extensively than we are currently aware, then they're going to need to readjust their plan of action, as is the case with all countries and all responsible governments, as I'm sure you appreciate, sir. And so my understanding is that the Cayman Islands government is wisely taking the suppression approach, trying to ensure rather than just doing nothing or just mitigating and not taking it as seriously, that it be taken as seriously as possible, and that we try to ensure that as few people in our population as possible are affected.
I just want to say some advice to people, to try to stay home as much they could. Try to avoid contact with people. Don't shake hands with people. Don't hug people, even your own family, even your own kids, to make sure that we want to see the radio make a daily program. A daily program. Try to explain to people what to do at home, so this disease don't spread between us. We need all of us. We need to stand with the government, all of us. We need to put politics aside. We need people to stop boasting social media nonsense things, not to make fun of this thing, to be serious. And we need to start unity in this country to make sure everyone is aware what is this disease, what to do, how to do things, so people can educate themselves.
Yes, sir. I agree completely. In fact, that is in fact what is happening as much as possible. And there's a lot of information out there, and certainly Radio Cayman is doing its part to get that information out as well. I must go to another call now, sir, but I'd like to thank you for your contribution and thank you for your call. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Schmid.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Just fine.
How's the curfew treating you?
Well, at my age, we get used to these things. And as that gentleman was just saying there, we have to listen to the government and see what they're doing. I must commend the Premier. And I also want to commend you all, the staff, where you came out for diligently carrying out your duties and keeping to a sane response and allowing the government to utilize these services. And even though we say it's a government's radio station, but a very unbiased type of response to people, where you give them and allow them, even when they disagree with what you're trying to say or what you're trying to put across.
Yes, sir.
Both yourself and OC and Sterling Green, but always that unbiased view, willing to listen to people's point of view. Of course, now that this is on us, it's a very serious thing, but then again, we have faced other very serious things too. in life. And we mustn't think that this is the end of the world. I don't like to look at life that way at all. As contrary to what the other gentleman was saying about most people not believing in God, I think it's the other way around. A very few don't. Very few don't.
Yes,
most people do. Especially here in Cayman. We've always been a strictly Christian conservative country.
Absolutely.
And it continues, and this is it. We're not saying that everybody is a professing Christian, so to speak, but we believe in Jesus, and we have always followed that and listened to parents, deeply devout Christian parents I had. They're long gone home to glory now. My father's gone 44 years. My mother, this August, 18 years. But the thing is that we have all become suddenly medical experts.
Almost.
In every pharmacy
yes, sir.
is filled. That's why when I call in, I like to say it's my opinion.
Right.
We can't keep saying we do this and we do that and we come, even in political things. Some of us do this, some of us believe in that, some of us try. But the shelves in every pharmacy you go into, and I'm sure you've been, are filled most with natural things, if you look at the shelves.
Yes, a lot of homeopathic medication.
Natural medications, they're from natural food things, and sometimes they're even sold out, take like garlic tablets, things like that. People know the use and the value of garlic for many, many years. Otherwise, we know that. We have it abounding in yards. It's a very, very important natural thing.
Yes, sir. Mr. Rustin,
antibiotic, yes.
If I could just use one of your points actually to perhaps expand upon. You made mention of the fact that you feel that most people are complying, most people are in agreement with the measures that are being taken, and I think
I'm absolutely certain of that.
Yes, sir. I think that a clear demonstration of that fact is the level of cooperation that we have seen. I mean, there were a few people that may have been irritated at the short time period in which they had to prepare, but by and large, everyone has fallen into line. Everyone believes that what the government has told us is accurate and continues to be so and stays tuned. But sir, I'd like to thank you so much for calling in. We're going to have to break for the news now. If you wish to call back, by all means do so, or hold however you wish, sir.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only two species that we have here on island.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Just after 8 p.m. on Tuesday, police were on patrol in the Georgetown district where they spotted a man walking on Saturn clothes in breach of the imposed COVID curfew. He was observed to be carrying a knife and behaving aggressively towards the officer. He was arrested for breaching the COVID curfew, and during a search, police found a pepper spray canister, a knife, and 2 spent casings from live ammunition rounds. The 26-year-old was then further arrested on suspicion of being in possession of an offensive weapon, being in possession of a restricted weapon, and being in possession of an unlicensed firearm. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines in news elsewhere. Mexican protesters have shut a U.S. southern border crossing amid fears that untested American travelers will spread coronavirus. Residents in Sonora, south of the U.S. state of Arizona, have promised to block traffic into Mexico for a second day after closing a checkpoint for hours on Wednesday. They wore face masks and held signs telling Americans to stay at home. Mexico has fewer than 500 confirmed COVID cases, and the U.S. over 65,000. And the U.S. has charged Venezuelan's president, Nicolas Maduro, and other senior officials in the country with international drug trafficking. The move, which will escalate tensions between the two nations, was announced by Attorney General William Barr. The U.S. also offered a $15 million reward for information leading to Mr. Maduro's arrest. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Canine Resort and Spa, your dog gets the red carpet treatment. That's why people trust us and pets love us. Offering doggy daycare, boarding, training, and grooming services for any breed, size, or style. From head to tail, we'll make your dog smile.
Choose from 4 grooming packages, from the basic bronze package of a hydrobath, shampoo and conditioner, wash and blowout, to the platinum package including spa services like a doggy massage and berry facial. Canine will help your pet look picture perfect. Receive a loyalty card where your 6th grooming package is free. Limited availability.
Visit canineresort.com for details on grooming packages, doggy daycare, and resort services. Canine Resort and Spa, where the posh dogs go. This is a public service announcement from your Radio Cayman, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Home isolation means staying indoors and completely avoiding contact with other people. You need to do this if you have symptoms of COVID-19. If you are practicing home isolation, you should stay in a well-ventilated room with a window to outside that can be opened, separate from other people in your home. Keep the door closed and use that room from the rest of the household, if available. If you have to share these facilities, regular sterilization will be required. Consider drawing up a bathroom schedule for washing or bathing and have the isolated person using the facilities last.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I have a special guest on the line who is just really bursting to speak with our listening audience. Welcome, special guests.
Is that what I am? Special, but that was a compliment from her. Hey, good afternoon to you, man. How are you?
Not bad, sir. And how are you doing?
Great. Well, joining you by satellite from outer space.
I haven't been told yet. Apparently, that's top secret where you are. So I was only guessing, speculating, but hopefully it's not that far away.
All but a prayer away and what I say, just a phone call away. I hope you can hear us. From
very clearly. Yeah, perfectly clearly.
I love technology, but I love people even more.
Yeah, me too.
To you for sitting in that chair. You're doing a sterling job.
Thank you. I was aspiring to that. But I'm trying to get all of our listening audience, most of whom are at home, to and they would naturally have to be listening to Radio Cayman, it being the source of information always in the Cayman Islands. So, but the calls are starting to come through slowly but surely. But it's also indicative of the fact that perhaps many people are quite understanding of what's happening. As it turns out, Sterling, we have 2 calls on the line. You okay if we go directly to those calls now?
This is a show for our listeners, so let's do.
Okay. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Not too bad. I have $1 million question for you all.
Just $1 million?
Yeah, that's $1 million.
Okay.
The freight in the food that is coming from overseas, how is that being sterilized? Because people still have to put their hands on it. What precautions are they doing about that?
Well, that's a question that we can pose directly for you, and perhaps even at the press briefing. But for what it's worth, and not to anyway downplay your question, I think people are very much concerned with safety across all levels. We even see research about is it on shoes, for instance? Can you bring it into your shoes? And I'll come back to that in a second. But to answer your second question, I think that every measure is being taken to ensure that the safe handling. Of course, if you look at what the supermarkets are asking of its people when it reopens, don't bring the reusable bags. We'll give you the plastic bags. There's no charge. That 5 cents fee has been waived. So any and every measure that we can employ, so we keep the groceries home. Perhaps we'll be added, a little added caution. We'll take and sanitize them as best as we can. Before we put them in, maybe we'll put them on the floor and not put them on the kitchen counters, as we probably some of us may have been accustomed. But it's nothing wrong with being a little bit more careful when we bring the groceries home, the goods that we're handling. Even seeing probably in the earlier days, some of the construction sites, people being a little more careful, not just with masks or gloves, perhaps even sanitizing as best as they can with some of the tools that they were using.
And if I could just endorse what Sterling was just saying, I took the opportunity just to pull up some information. I know I had heard it mentioned already in one of the government press briefings, but admittedly I did not hear the entirety of what measures were being taken. And I'm seeing here online, sir, various reports relating to steps being followed in terms of protocols being followed in relation to cargo by the Port Authority in order to minimize or eliminate any potential spread of the virus through the importation of any form of cargo whatsoever. Now, as to the detail in relation to those steps, I'm not 100% sure what exactly they're doing, sir.
All right, then, sir. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you so much. Stay safe. Huh? And Mr. Schmid, you said we had another caller.
Yes, sir. I believe we do. Good afternoon, caller. You on Talk Today?
Yeah, good afternoon again, Mr. Schmid.
Good afternoon, sir. We have Mr. Ebanks on the line as well.
Yes, I gathered that, and I like that pun there about a sterling job.
So I was just thinking, sir, before you go, this.
Yeah, he's a very witty fella,
Oh, you don't even hear what happens offline.
Yes, I imagine. I imagine. I've been in the studio. I've had the honor and pleasure of being in the studio here for all the.
It was there
once or twice, I believe. I'm getting old, so memories sort of feel, but twice. But I don't think he was there once when I was there. One of the times, there's another lady there. Anyhow, that's in the past. I like a lot of people. I just say this real quickly. Keep talking about the future and our children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great. Well, most of us won't be around to see our great-grandchildren at all and stuff like that. So we do not really know. We can only think. The future never is. It never was. It always shall will be. So the present is what we think about. We see it right now. We have to succeed in the present, or the future won't be enjoyed by our children or grandchildren. We have to make sure we have a good present for them and make life good for ourselves as best as possible in the present. When we think of other countries, like Italy, I think Italy has a population, you guys are younger than I am, about what? 64 million people?
About 60 million, sir.
Yes, good. That's a vast difference from us. Their borders open to the international traffic, just coming in and out. They have things coming in, producers made for them to come in, for them massive factories. They produce things. They have factories. The people have to keep going to work, and that's what does it. These factories keep the place alive. The exports coming out of there, like every other country, huge countries that keep our financial world alive. It comes from factories. people making things, people doing things, making the computers we use. But it's not all. The cars, the huge things that keep us going, the huge diesel engines that for the light plant, the trucks and stuff, and bulldozers that keep our roads and keep our buildings and keep our the work done on land filling in to make buildings and stuff like that. And there are those who complain and say we're cutting down all the trees and stuff, but people still get up and say we want progress, we want to see these apartments have to be built for these people and stuff. That's why we can't have any sort of set plan.
Yes, sir.
We always complain on one particular person. I won't call any names, keeps going about a plan for it, plan, and makes it all the government's fault that this plan hasn't been put in place. What plan?
Sir,
we have changed so much in the last several years that we can't plan like that. This we operate. Remember, we don't have factories. We don't have anything really exporting. We export a few thousand cases of beer, a few thousand cases of rum cakes, and some rum and all that. That's minuscule to what comes in. And, a bulk of it comes in wire transfers, or nowadays it's no longer suitcases filled with hundreds of thousands of dollars at the airport, like for 50 years. No, but this is essentially what people have to focus on. Other countries, and that's why they may have a greater portion of their population suffering, because they still have to maintain these factories and huge jobs. And those of us who have lived abroad have realized this. That has to keep going.
Sir, if I may, sir, just to add that in fact, countries like Italy and Spain, who are having an extremely high incidence, in fact, Europe generally has an extremely high incidence of infection at the moment, are perhaps going through what many medically qualified persons are estimating is nearing the worst. In other words, they're approaching their peak point faster, because, as you quite rightly have said, they're massive countries with large populations, with a lot of border to have to close. But at the moment, most of those countries are in a greater level of lockdown than we are, and which is quite amazing when you consider the sheer size, as you correctly also mentioned. But at the same time, they also, to some extent, certainly with respect to Germany and certain others, they have capacity to deal with pandemics more so than many smaller countries, and have developed protocols and so on and so forth. Just to make the point that they are by and large closed down as well in this global effort to try to stem the spread of this illness. But, sir, we do have two more callers on the line. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to just thank you once again for your call. And we'll go to the very next call. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hello.
I think there's feedback somewhere there.
We have a three-way conversation, sir. We have Sterling in Mars, and myself in Georgetown, and yourself in West Bay, I think.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For nearly 20 years, King Sports Center has been the heart of the Cayman fitness and wellness community. In order to ensure the welfare of all, we will be temporarily closing on March 23rd, reopening on April 6th, unless otherwise notified by the Cayman Islands government. During these trying times, we encourage everyone to maintain a healthy lifestyle, mind, body, and soul. We look forward to continuing providing you with world-class service in the very near future. Remain strong and continue to show the world the power of Cayman unity. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
The Cayman Islands government has implemented a curfew for all 3 islands until 5 a.m. Saturday, the 28th of March. The extension of the curfew measure prohibits movement outside the home by all but essential personnel. It comes in the interest of public health and welfare of the community. The Honorable Premier Alden McLaughlin urges Caymanians and residents to strictly abide by the curfew, saying the decision to extend the curfew was taken as an immediate solution in the interest of the health and welfare of the community and to suppress transmission of COVID-19 as quickly as possible. The RCIPS will actively be enforcing the curfew and have already implemented significant community patrols. Anyone with inquiries as to whether they are an essential business and how they can be so designated should contact via email at curfewtime@gov.ky. That's curfewtime@gov.ky. Once again, the Cayman Islands government has implemented an extended curfew for all 3 islands until 5 a.m. on Saturday, the 28th of March. This has been a public service announcement from Radio Cayman, your official radio station in the Cayman Islands.
And just to let you know, there's going to be a government press briefing taking place this afternoon at 2 p.m.
A public service announcement from Radio Cayman. Coronavirus prevention tips. Advice for vulnerable people. Extra steps you can take to avoid COVID-19. If you have a chronic illness such as respiratory disease, diabetes, heart disease, COPD, hypertension, or cancer, or are elderly, over 60, or have a compromised immune system, you can further protect yourself with extra precautionary steps in addition to prevention tips. 1. Limit guest visits at home to a few family and friends or your district community officer during an outbreak. 2. Avoid guests who show signs of flu-like symptoms. 3. Remain 3 to 6 feet away unless being checked by your healthcare provider. More importantly, remember you are supported. Call the HSA helpline on 1-800-534-8600 or 947-3077 if you have any questions. For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I believe we have our caller on the line still. Hello, Mr. Banks.
Here at Stop Holding for enough, but anyway.
Thank you for your patience, sir.
Yeah. I think, where we're at today, it's a great time for reflection. And I think as a country, it could be a time that we could do some corrective measures that we might not have thought very much about over the past, let's say, 45 years, maybe 50 years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And these times do come upon us unexpectedly. I'm sure it would not have been in any national plan that might have been proposed. But thinking about it, there was a lot of those that, were proposed and sat on the shelf, still on the shelf, and that had a lot of good, I think, good elements in it that really was not taken full cognizance of. So this could be a time when some of that reflection comes to the top, and we take a greater level of cognizance. Oh,
yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Sorry, may I just ask you, sir? When you're saying that there was a more comprehensive plan in the past to deal with challenging issues generally, or no?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying that.
I know that's not your central point, but I was just wondering.
Yeah. That there were a lot of plans in the past from 1974, 75, but even prior to that, there were plans, but that were shelved for something else.
Yeah, yes, sir.
And that was not really taking full cognizance of. And I'm sure there was a lot of good elements in them that could have, I know we've been very successful by all measurements that mankind, I guess, came up with. But are we now at the point, or let's say six weeks ago, are we at the point that we want to be at, or could we have been at a better point if we had taken cognizance of some of the recommendations that was done by the community at that time?
Sterling, what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you. I was actually going to ask if I could weigh in, because sometimes, as I listen to a caller reflect, that we don't reflect. We don't necessarily, in order to look at the way forward, we don't look back. I agree with the previous caller who said, we talk about the future, which is important, but are we also looking into it and doing all we can to preserve and protect the present, so that there is not just a semblance of enjoyment, but a semblance of setting the stage, the foundation for continued future prosperity, not just financially. But if I could ask you, Mr. Banks, if you would allow us, some of those things, ideas, plans, and even potential policies that were considered back in the 70s, even in the early 80s, for some of us, we don't know our history. Some of us quickly forget, others don't want to recall. Some are just too young to even be cognizant that there were discussions. The development plan, for instance. Would it be possible just a cursory overview of some of those things that we looked at back then that might be worthwhile at least being reminded of today?
I didn't really catch a lot of what he's saying because it's echoing. He's
okay, sir.
But
so
maybe you can just paraphrase it.
Yes, sir. In essence, Sterling was asking whether you could give us a sort of cursory view or example of some of the things that we have contemplated in the past that perhaps have now fallen by the wayside or not being developed the way that we would have liked to in an ideal world.
Well, one thing that really comes to mind, and I guess it should flash in everybody's face, was one time, at least it was considered a fairly comprehensive major traffic plan.
Yes, sir.
Which there might have been one or two little elements that were instituted from it, and I think it was changing the pattern around the Georgetown post office. There was a little different pattern than what it was not. But I'm sure that had a lot of elements in it.
The Master Ground Transportation Plan, sir?
Right. Yes, that's what it was called.
Right, which was never fully embraced. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And if we go back to 75, 74 probably, there was a development plan there which was basically shelved, and another process, another approach taken, and I'm not criticizing, but and some of these things have served us well over the years, but I think a more planned approach to where we want to go, what we want to be, how we want the country to move along, and basically for the benefit of Caymanians, and those that come here, and you got a good living, and that's all fine and well. We welcome them, but I think the Caymanians, a lot of Caymanians have fell by the wayside, and of course, we're the ones that are governing the country. So we have to take responsibility for where we're at and why we're not at where we think we should be or would like to be for the benefit of all.
Yes, sir.
For the maximum benefit of all.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more personally. And Vision 2008, for example, was nationally accepted as a national plan, 10-year national plan. I think we're moving back in that direction again, given the amount of challenges that we've had over the recent months, even with the earthquake and so on and so forth as well. But certainly, we didn't follow through with the national disaster plan in its entirety that was included in Vision 2008. Now, of course, that's now antiquated, but Mr. Banks, I would very much like to thank you for your contribution, and it definitely is food for thought. We should be doing more forward planning for longer periods of time. We have one more caller on the line, however, so we'd like to go to that caller before we have to break for the next commercial break. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Patrick. Good afternoon, Dwayne. Good afternoon to our listeners.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Yes, it's here in Caymanbrack, about 98 degrees, and it's very dismal. Activity is down to about zero. The only traffic I see on the road is the water authority people busy delivering some water to people. And the police helicopter came to Caymanbrack. I'm not sure if it was a medical emergency, but I think maybe it was. Helicopter came and went back to Grand Cayman. Anyway, we're faced with a first-of-a-lifetime situation for most of us, and luckily here in the Brack, we don't have any cases yet, and that's the way we want to keep it.
Absolutely, sir.
Yes, sir, and it's, like I said, one of a time in our lifetime to be faced with this. And also talking about the cruise ship industry is just about down to zero. I know about 11 ships anchored off the Great Stirrup Key in the Bahamas. 9 is anchored off Great Isaacs in the Bahamas. 5 is anchored off Miami. 9 is in port in Miami. Some of them has sick people on board. So, man, it's a international financial disaster being posed on so many people, including people from the island, our islands here.
Absolutely.
And yes, definitely so. And it's the worst thing that has ever came about in our lifetime. But anyway, we have to cope with it and hope for the best.
You
all doing okay there?
Yes, sir. Thus far, it sounds very much like Grand Cayman is pretty much in the same position as Caymanbrack, insofar as everything is quite quiet and everyone seems to be complying by and large. There are, of course, always exceptions, but I just add to what you've already said. I don't know if Sterling has anything to add or whether he's still with us at this stage, but Sterling, do you want to go ahead and say something or?
Listen, especially asking to you, Mr. Riemann, are you able to hear me okay, or does it sound echoey to you as well?
I hear you a bit weak, like 3 by 5. You're reduced.
Okay. Yeah, well, sometimes being in West Bay seems to be far away from town. But
watch out.
Well, then it doesn't. I'll try the other line to see if it's any better, because we wanted to be clear.
Okay. Sir, if you would like to hold on, you're certainly welcome to do so. Otherwise, I would thank you for your contribution today. And we're going to go to a commercial break now. Thank you so much.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Persons having difficulty coping and managing stress during these difficult times can call a new confidential mental health helpline, which is operated by the Cayman Islands government in collaboration with private partners. The number is 1-800-534-6463. That's 1-800-534-6463. Hours are Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Additional hours will be added as needed.
A public service announcement from Radio Cayman. Coronavirus prevention tip. If persons have policy questions, you can go to gov.ky and click on coronavirus. Be in the know. You can find the latest advice and guidance for households, businesses, and schools, as well as advice pertaining to older persons or persons with chronic diseases. You can also email questions to flu@hsa.ky or the hotline numbers of 1-800-534-8600 or 947-3077. For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. This is Patrick Schmid standing in for Sterling Dwayne, but he is also on the line with us, I believe. And if he's not, then he will soon be once again. Sterling, are you there? I think we're just in the process of getting him back on the line, perhaps with a slightly clearer audio. And so I just like to take the opportunity, whilst I may, and in respect of the recent calls from Mr. Banks as well as Mr. Scott, and it was good to hear from Kim Brack, of course. Good to know that Kim Brack is doing well, and just to say that there's a lot of scientific debate and evidence now coming forward, which is suggesting that we are likely to see a peak of, that is, maximum number of infections, and then it tailoring off with respect to coronavirus. Now, these are just the estimations of medically qualified persons in various research institutes and doctors around the world within the next 3 months, and thereafter they're expecting it to taper off on a global level. But that is just an expectation based on current statistics. So, but it's worthwhile considering, given the level of knowledge of the persons who are actually producing this information. Susan, do we have Sterling on the line now, or do we have another caller? Okay, I'm just going to continue until such time as we're rejoined by Sterling, or indeed, if we have another caller, then of course we'll take the call. I do have a WhatsApp question which has come through, and I'll also take the opportunity to mention that I'm going to paraphrase. Essentially, the person is asking about assistance with respect to salaries, and the answer to that question, that is to say, that presumably the person has seen, for example, that there was recently, in fact yesterday, passed a $2 trillion package in the United States in order to provide rescue for various workers and companies and so on and so forth. And I believe it's fair to say that we do not have that type of capacity here in Cayman to have that type of detailed rescue package. But Sterling, what do you think?
Well, listen, man, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, sir. Better.
Okay, great, man.
And glad that we were able to, have multiple, redundancies built into the system to have multiple channels to access and discuss. But with respect to the economics, though, as much as I think that is important, generally speaking, and perhaps when we're looking at political and business leadership, we should be looking at economics, the economists, and the whole notion, but not just from the qualitative, but primarily in this time such as these, should highlight, the quantitative aspect more, sort of from planning down the future, but the qualitative has to be, constantly in our minds. The $2 trillion package or a $50 trillion package or a bottomless, sort of reservoir won't do us any good if humanity isn't around to enjoy it, if there is a semblance of quality of life, civility, if there isn't a semblance of people not just being dictated to by a government, but being able to very intimately be involved with the policy, the planning, and the implementation. And I kind of was looking at a number of things from the potential, whether people want to put a spin on it from the perspective of being conspiracy, or whether they were looking at it from the perspective of financial windfalls. But they're going to emerge from this globally, a new geopolitical landscape, but equally, right here locally, people, an entity, or a grouping that are going to be richer than ever, right? If you take, for instance, the considerations that China, Russia, even South Korea, for instance, on a geopolitical landscape, are sort of positioned, in a sense, much better than, say, Europe, North America. But if you look on a Cayman scale, just locally, we have businesses being identified as essential as opposed to maybe a sector. So let's say in restaurant, for instance, or retail. Is it all retail or only these particular retail establishments? This isn't to incite anybody. You just have to ask them to consider the perspective. But again, the immediate short-term objective should be a sense of humanity and safety, which hopefully creates a new ethos so that becomes the long-term objective, that we take what we experience, some say 2 weeks, some say a little bit longer, right after Ivan, where everybody was actually interested in everybody else's safety and well-being. Now, we're seeing behaviors allegedly. Some shops perhaps may have increased prices on certain items. The justification, short supply, high demand. But in absence of laws sort of limiting price increases, we call it nice fancy words like price gouging and the like. We see the U.S. doing something similar relative to hoarding and stockpiling. But it comes back to what the caller prior was sharing. Are we looking at policies for proper long-term planning and development, whether it's the Vision 2008, whether it's the discussions of the 70s and early 80s, or there's a notion of, how do we look at, creating a sustainable economy by growing a population in a responsible way. Hindsight is 2020. Now, I think for now, the political leadership, the Honorable Premier in particular, is attempting to balance maybe many competing interests. What if, Mr. Schmid, what if, for example, the Premier and his cabinet having a discussion about, and we'll do it in hindsight, okay, we need to kind of put some restrictions in place in terms of people's movements and the like. So what if the Premier and his elected cabinet are saying, there's him and one or two others who are saying, listen, guys, the safety and well-being of our people is paramount. And then what if across the table there are one or two or three others saying, well, businesses need to continue. And there's this discussion so that there's this divide. Now, could the political leadership say, well, listen, business is important, but if there's nobody around to buy goods or to work in those businesses, what's the point? You can't take the money with you if you're no longer here, right? So where is that level of sort of concern, compassion, some would say common sense approach to making sure that the people's welfare, their safety, their security is truly as important as some would believe that it is.
I think from based on each of the press briefings I've listened to, the Honourable Premier has made it quite clear, as has the other persons, senior members of government present, that the priority is, without a doubt, the lives of the people in the islands. So in my mind, there's no question as to what their priority is. And I think that their actions speak to that fact. With respect to business and moving forward, and there will be a turning point, of course, as Mr. Hurlston was saying, and as others have said. Of course, this is perhaps an important lesson, and indeed you were saying as well, for us, insofar as we need to have more comprehensive, more long-term planning, and I think that the government is more than aware of that, and any government perhaps would be now in light of all of these challenges that we've been facing especially over the last few months. But just if I could address one thing, I wasn't quite sure if Sterling, if you were saying that there were specifically named entities, because I know that there's a list of curfew exempt organizations, but they are grouped by category, and I don't think, unless I misunderstood you completely, I don't think that some are being included and some are being excluded, at least not on the basis of what I've seen.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're sharing, and that's what I'm saying. When we look at this, this is a very unprecedented time for us, especially those of us that, maybe on the 60th, for instance, not having experienced certain things. And when we're looking at our own individual preparations, not just for a hurricane or some sort of other disaster, but when we're looking at our schooling, think back to our parents and grandparents, those that we have them with us that are, in their 70s, 80s, 90s, tell us, well, during the wartime there were preparations and drills and the like. We, didn't grow up in that era. We don't understand that. So when we go into our schools, the life skills, quote unquote, that we're being taught, how do you prepare for certain things? How do you do it? Is that something that maybe other countries have done or are doing with these people? For example, right? But equally, when we're looking at categories versus lean entities, yeah, I agree with you. We have identified chartered organizations. Here's a list of them. Is it then that if we look, just use restaurants for example, because I think a lot of us would appreciate that it may not be always convenient. Maybe we have not become yet able to make adjustments to our lifestyles because we've become so accustomed to stopping to get food on the way in or from work. We order in, not because of the affluence, but because maybe the convenience, maybe the kitchen no longer is that familiar, easier place for many of us. For whatever reason, we find that to be a showpiece as opposed to a central gathering place for the families, right?
Right.
So if for example, looking at the list and you were to say, okay, well, restaurants, all in Sunday, if you look at Korean delivery places, is it an exhaustive list? Or is it that when you look at it, or you look at supermarkets and you see 5 or 10 or 50, or maybe there's 1,000, is it meant to be all of these, or only these, how it's construction? And I think you're sharing that. I'm asking us as a people to look and maybe, clarify just in case, but equally to be civil. If we have a restaurant, for instance.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sterling. The boss has indicated to me that that in light of the fact, especially that we were going to have to break early for the press briefing, that we need to go to the commercial break now, and then we'll be right back. If you could please just hold on.
Hold on, not a problem, man.
Thank you so much, sir. No, yeah, we'll be right back after the short break.
The Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS, is providing the following non-emergency numbers for weekdays: 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please call 925-5120 or 926-6853, Grand Cayman, and 929-7932, Cayman Brac. For the department's critical services assistance, including child protection by the multi-agency safeguarding hub, MASH, call 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545 or email mash@gov.ky. To access critical services supporting the protection of the elderly, email dcfselderlyservices@gov.ky. For emergencies, please call 911.
Digicel's Shake to Win is back. Every Saturday, Digicel is giving you a chance to win LTE handsets, cash prizes, data, D-Music subscription, gas vouchers, grocery vouchers, and that's not all. Every week, you get a chance to win a $5,000 regional prize. Don't miss out. Simply download the new My Digicel app, activate a plan if you're not already on one, and shake to win every Saturday. It's that simple. My Digicel. More made simple. Terms and conditions apply.
The Cayman Islands government has implemented a curfew for all 3 islands until 5 a.m. Saturday, the 28th of March. The extension of the curfew measure prohibits movement outside the home by all but essential personnel. It comes in the interest of public health and welfare of the community. The Honorable Premier Alden McLaughlin urges Caymanians and residents to strictly abide by the curfew, saying the decision to extend the curfew was taken as an immediate solution in the interest of the health and welfare of the community and to suppress transmission of COVID-19 as quickly as possible. The RCIPS will actively be enforcing the curfew and have already implemented significant community patrols. Anyone with inquiries as to whether they are an essential business and how they can be so designated should contact via email at curfewtime@gov.ky. That's curfewtime@gov.ky. Once again, the Cayman Islands government has implemented an extended curfew for all 3 islands until 5 a.m. on Saturday, the 28th of March. This has been a public service announcement from Radio Cayman, your official radio station in the Cayman Islands.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Welcome back to Talk Today, and I hope that we have a number of our listening audience out there ready to call in. But Sterling and I were just discussing a point regarding planning for the future. Is that a good way to summarize what you're speaking of, Sterling?
Yeah, man. You're a great, listener. But that's the thing, as we plan for the future, I think we should ensure that now we are prepared to equally recognize that the actions that we're taking now, as Mr. Micker was sharing, the future is, no man is guaranteed or assured that he'll see tomorrow, And I think the coronavirus is a good reminder that life can be unpredictable.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's a time for us now, as we see this whole scenario unfold globally, that we start to value what is it that is truly important to us. Nothing wrong with building wealth, but we're also building bridges, not just an air bridge, but we're building bridges and real connections with our families. Having you, for example, there to be available to us is an incredible, gratitude to you for doing so.
My pleasure, sir. But just to say that, firstly, I agree with you completely that it is important that any mature society plan as best as possible. And as you were referring earlier to the children and preparing them in school, and it brought me back to thoughts of videos of when back in the days of President Kennedy, for example, in the United States, when they were anticipating at any point in time that they might go, this was the Cold War times, of course, that they might go into a nuclear war, and children were being regularly drilled as to what to do if there should be such an attack and so on. Of course, that is something which hopefully is well and truly in the past, but there are other threats to mankind that are constantly developing, and with that in mind, I think that we are becoming more and more cognizant of the fact that as a people, and presumably also the government, and certainly that's the evidence suggests as much, that we have, we're very much a part of this increasingly smaller global community, and therefore we have a lot of responsibilities if we're going to maintain the standard of life that we would like to have, that we aspire to, and indeed if we are going to be able to strike that important balance. Which, by the way, as an offshoot, it also occurred to me that on a daily basis, we're being encouraged to sort of take things one day at a time because of the stress levels involved. When you look down 3 months, 6 months down the line, we just don't know what's going to happen. And at the same time, we have to balance that with the fact that we have to plan for all of the contingencies that may be 6 years down the line. Yeah, but we have a call on the line, Sterling. If you don't mind, we'll go straight to the caller. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome.
Yeah. I wanted to mention something that I noticed. When I got up this morning, I have my window right next to my bed, and I looked outside. It was open. I keep my windows open because screen window. I just don't like air conditioning. I got too much fungus and stuff accumulates and that, and people keep using it, wonder why they feel sick. But I thought, as I looked outside, there was, even the trees were still. There was no wind or anything. And then I realized how quiet it was. You never hear the cars or even the chickens were quiet, And I thought to myself, this reminds me of when I was growing up in North.
You there, sir? Hello, sir?
Sir, are you going in and out? I don't know if you're moving around with your phone.
And I said that it reminded me when I was a kid, when I was a little boy, how there were no cars. They were just, people walked wherever they went. And we had bicycles and things like that, but everything was so different. It was so pristine. And if you take the time to look at some of the old photographs, even though they're black and white, you can see that the atmosphere is clear. I mean, it's beautiful. It's clean. And what has happened to us, I think, is it's like something new, and it's different, and it does what we used to do. Maybe a little harder to do it, but this new thing that makes it easier. So everybody goes and they buy this and buy that, and they do these things, and then they're not realizing they're polluting the earth, polluting the air.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the populations are increasing.
Pardon me?
I said, and of course, populations are increasing, which complicates things even further.
Yeah. And then we don't need the number of cars we got in Cayman, and that it doesn't do a thing for us other than the fact that it makes everybody angry when they can't get to work or when they can't get home and stuff like that. We have to put a restriction. I know that Bermuda did it some years ago, and it'll never be perfect. But the fact is that this amount of these, the things that we have in this island, the things that's going on. I mean, I heard on the radio yesterday, someone was talking about how these people that come here and the money laundering thing and things that they had to local people had to look for when they were looking at these things. And they mentioned, and I had mentioned this many years ago, that there were places here that if you stood there 24/7, you wouldn't see two people go inside the business, but they stay open. And I can tell you that there's some places here that I go by this sometime, and you see them, they've got 3 or 4 TVs going inside and not a soul. These are bars, basically. Not a soul sitting inside, and yet they continue to operate. We got brothels here. We got basically brothels. We got places. I went into a place one day, this guy...
Of course, they're not licensed, sir, but...
Pardon me?
They're not licensed companies, of course.
Not licensed?
Right.
Oh, no. This one is licensed, what I'm talking about.
Oh,
because the guy said to me, and I said, can I look inside? And he said, well, you got a phone on you? And I said, yeah. He said, well, give me the phone. And he gave it to the guy that was behind some little window there. And he was supposed to hold it till I went inside. Then he asked if he said, I'll be $25. And I said, give me my phone back. I didn't go. But I just want to look inside. I said, if I got to pay to go inside, I'm not going. But I knew what it was because people had told me about it.
Yes,
and there's
sir.
several places like that in Cayman. And God has said, enough is enough. That's why when things happen in this world that you see going on today, the decadence, the stuff that's going on in this world today, that everybody's like kind of like ignoring it. They do that. And I remember talking to one politician one day about something, and something that was very serious that was someone committed.
Mr. Rupert, sorry for interrupting
Yeah.
you again. I just need to let you know that in 2 minutes, just under 2 minutes, we are expected to go directly to the
Oh yeah, okay.
the briefing.
Well, make the story
Yes, sir.
short. I tell you what.
Yes, sir.
We got these things happen. This person said to me, and I was telling him about this, his favorite politician, and I said something. He said, well, so-and-so does it, it's as if it's okay if it's not just, what I mean. I don't know what's happening to Cayman, but guys, keep up the good work. God bless, and we hope that people will listen to God.
Thank you, sir. Same to you, sir.
But Patrick, I recognize that you got 2 minutes. Maybe give me 30 seconds.
Of course, it's your show. No, but that aside, I mean, obviously, what we've been doing, as you probably know, is that as soon as they're ready, we go directly to them. But they will tell us 2:00, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily happen at 2 for various reasons. So I've been told that we should continue the conversation until they're ready.
So, as I told you, Susan's the boss, no matter whether I'm there or not.
So you take it away.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, I want to pick up on what you were sharing earlier.
Yes.
And think back to the example, of guns and butter, as it were. And for those who may have studied those subjects may have easy to recall it. But if you look today at some of the things, we're seeing that economies have changed. We're seeing governments have decided that it's maybe more important to put money into healthcare than into the military. Or we're seeing people globally starting to look at each other differently. The last caller highlighted something, the silence,
yes.
The solitude, the quiet opportunity to reflect. Now, it should not have to come to this, but maybe for some of us, the luxury that we enjoy, we don't even realize that we're taking it for granted. Something as simple as being able to come inside and you have a shelter, a clean, safe shelter that you can lay your head. The fact that you can, go into a room where there is running water, that you can get into some sort of device, we call it a tub shower or otherwise, and you can bathe, you can get a water temperature as you turn it on the valve to be whatever you want it, that you can have, these modern conveniences. What percentage of the globe doesn't enjoy that? Are we cognizant of them? What about not just in other countries, but right here, in our own sphere? Are people, not because they don't have money and they're disconnected, but maybe they don't have these things. We euphemistically talk about it being homeless, but where are we as a people extending a sense of humanity?
Yes.
And in our actions demonstrating a sense of humility. But we leave one space, enter another, we develop a sense of wealth and
Sterling.
air. Yes, sir.
Pardon the interruption. I'm afraid we have to go to the news, but just hold that thought, and we'll be right back.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on my own.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The government has a duty to protect the right to life of every individual in the Cayman Islands, and the Human Rights Commission says it stands behind the government as they seek to put in place safeguards to prevent the spread of COVID-19 throughout our community. The statement comes as gatherings are restricted and a mandatory curfew implemented. The HRC says government is within its powers to make restrictions in the interest of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, or public health. Good afternoon. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, the Italian region hardest hit by coronavirus has seen a steep decline in the number of deaths and infections, but worries are growing that the country's south could become the next hotspot. Recent numbers from the northern region of Lombardy suggested the epidemic might be slowing at its epicenter, but poorer southern parts are seeing a sharp rise in deaths, raising fears the health service could be overwhelmed. And a man accused of deadly attacks on mosques in the New Zealand city of Christchurch a year ago has pleaded guilty to 51 charges of murder. 29-year-old Brenton Tarrant also admitted the attempted murder of another 40 people and one terrorism charge. He had previously denied the charges and was due to go on trial in June. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken share.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken share.
I am not a chicken.
Whoa! I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC, just $12 each, and it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
Digicel is all about giving customers more convenience, more peace of mind, and more flexibility. Do more with the new My Digicel app. Buy plans, pay your bill, track your credit, track your data, and monitor your accounts. It's easy to use and has everything you need in one place. It's time to simplify your life, so go ahead and see for yourself. Download the new My Digicel app today. More made simple.
A public service announcement from Radio Cayman.
Rumors and misinformation will not help us tackle the coronavirus. Remember, you can check on www.gov.ky/coronavirus to see trusted and up-to-date guidance from the experts. This page is being continually updated and should become your first port of call for the facts. Please do your part to avoid scare tactics and fake news. This government is not complacent. We will continue to prepare tirelessly, make the necessary decisions required in the best interests of the health and safety of our people. You may feel worried, scared, or stressed about the serious nature of COVID-19, but we can and will overcome this public threat. Again, remember to cover your cough and sneezes, wash your hands often, and avoid close contact with persons, especially if they're showing signs of respiratory illness. Please stay safe, and may God continue to bless the Cayman Islands.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, Cayman, and welcome back to Talk Today. This is Patrick Schmid speaking, and I have Sterling on the line with me. Sterling, I'm sorry to have interrupted you, but
no, not at all.
We, as you know, we're going to break and go directly to the press briefing as soon as they are ready for us. But by all means, please continue with the point you were making.
Yeah, well, no, but thank you very much for letting me join you at this time as well. And two things, I guess. One, to continue with the point, the idea that we always talk about independence, the independence of the individual, the country's independence. With the greatest respect, I always think of interdependence, the notion that no man is an island. We all need somebody sometime to do something, and it shouldn't come to a stage as that for us to realize that. But as we've seen, we say necessity is the mother of invention. We're watching how innovative people have become relative to maybe deploying new techniques to build and manufacture masks. Perhaps the use of what otherwise would have been a waste in a manufacturing process. The spent alcohol now being used as hand sanitizer. Maybe this is the time for us to go back and look for those who have sort of lived in Cayman, whose ancestral links go back.
should be easier. But I think it's equally easy for all of us, no matter where we're from, how old we are, to realize the adage, waste not, want not, is something that we should always employ. The older Caymanians took the coconut, and everything about it was useful in every facet, from cleaning the bottoms on the floors of the homes, with the husk, to using the shell, to using the water, to using the meat. And I think that's where we need to come now, because if we're going to have a sustainable, population growth, whether we're at 5 billion or 10 billion or 50 billion, there is a finite amount of resources, and I think too many of us are too willing to discard, too much.
Yes, absolutely, and just to say, I mean that ties quite neatly with your previous point about how much we tend to take for granted these days. Obviously, life for us today is far easier physically, certainly, than our ancestors, but at the same time, we don't have the pleasure of, for example, enjoying what we don't even notice. Like, how many times have you driven by West Bay Beach when it's too late to go?
Yeah, you're right, man.
Yes. Apparently, we're now breaking for the press briefing. So, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
48 samples to report, which are all negative. These are spread between samples taken by the Health Service Authority and at Health City, Cayman Islands. I also wanted to briefly mention the person that died in Honduras who was residing in Cayman. We have no further information on that particular issue. We've sent queries through to Public Health England and their international contacts to see if they can find information out, and through to PAHO, but we have yet to receive any response.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. We'll take some questions from the media if there are any related to that update.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lee. Rachel Ravanath, Cayman Compass. In relation to the results that you've delivered today, a significant number of them being negative, how close are we to having Health City officially open its doors?
I think Health City would have to answer that question. I believe they're quite close, though. I believe they're going to be open shortly. I'm not sure if any other member of the panel has more information than me, but that would be for Health City to answer, really.
Fair enough. In relation to the negative cases, are all of the cases that we heard about from Health City now clear? Has anybody been cleared from isolation? They can now move about, well, not within curfew, but in general.
Under the current process that we have, if anybody proves positive, they remain in isolation until we take 2 samples from them, which come back negative 24 hours apart. So for some of the people, they've had their first sample. They should have had their first sample taken today of that follow-up check. But everybody else, if they've been symptom-free, would have been released from their 14-day quarantine, self-isolation period. Yes.
Thank you.
We'll move then to the Honourable Premier.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I want to start by thanking the Commissioner of Police and the police service for the incredible job that they've been doing over the course of the past 2 nights and this morning as well with respect to the curfew. And I also want to thank the population generally for such cooperation with what we all know and understand to be a really restrictive set of rules. I think the whole country understands, quite frankly, how serious the threat is that we are trying to deal with. And I trust and hope and pray and believe that the country is going to continue, the people of the country are going to continue to cooperate through the rest of this very difficult time. The curfew, which began at 7 p.m. last night, will run through to 5 a.m. this Saturday morning. I said yesterday, and I think the day before as well, that the government was working on developing a set of rules to govern the period following the curfew, the conclusion of the current curfew at 5 a.m. on Saturday. And we have indeed completed now a set of regulations that will govern the period from 5 a.m. on Saturday through 5 a.m. on Friday of next week, when the 10-day curfew period that was initially imposed expires. These are called shelter-in-place provisions. They are not the strict shutdown that a curfew entails, but they are aimed at restricting, limiting the movement of people through the community and the opportunities for people to interact with each other. Again, part of the overall suppression plan to prevent the virus from community spread. They are going to require the continued cooperation of the community, and the police in particular will need your support and agreement if this is to work. And I say that because the shelter-in-place provisions will allow persons access to the supermarkets, reasonable access to the supermarkets, to the pharmacies, to the gas stations, to the liquor stores, over the course of the next 10 days. But all other businesses that are not described as essential will remain closed. Employees are required to stay home. And essentially, if you are not going on a particular mission of great importance, to the supermarket, to the gas station, to the pharmacy, to walk your dog, to exercise for a reasonable period in a public place, you are required to stay at home. Today, I'm not going to go through the actual detail of those regulations. I've asked the Honorable Attorney General to attend tomorrow's press conference so that we can go through in detail what the regulations will entail. And hopefully the entire country will then be ready to operate under this new regime come 5 a.m. on Saturday morning. I repeat what I've said over and over again, is that if we succeed in this strategy, if we get to 14 days and there is no evidence of any significant community spread of the virus in Cayman, we will be in an incredibly good place. And then we can start to look at how we can relax some of these restrictions and slowly start to get back to a sense of normalcy within the way that we live in these islands. Today, actually, is 1 week since the first set of residents started to return from the United Kingdom. So far, so good. So I keep waking up every morning, waiting on the report from Dr. Lee, with hands clasped, pray God, no more evidence of community spread. And I think all of us in the country are probably living that way. But if we get to this point next week, I think I certainly will start to have a great deal of optimism that this strategy is actually working. But again, I appeal to everyone to please cooperate with what we're trying to do. We are still having far too many requests for exemptions from the curfew, and indeed from what will become the shelter-in-place provisions for people and for purposes which truly are not essential. Not being able to do something or to get something is inconvenient. It may make you miserable, but that doesn't mean it's absolutely essential. Never lose sight of what we're actually trying to do, which is to limit the opportunity for the virus to acquire a new host, because that's what the virus wants to do. It's always looking for another host so it can keep moving through the community. I finally want to finish with this issue of these memes. I really have had to speak to the governor and the commissioner about these memes, because it's reached a point now where I'm laughing so much I can't concentrate on my work. There was one last night of Chad Borden interviewing me that I watched it just with the governor 8 times now. And every time I see it, I laugh even more. I fell off my chair last night. So ease up on the memes, because you're affecting my ability to concentrate on this most serious of issues.
Thank you, sir. Your Excellency.
Okay. Thank you, Premier. I first want to thank the Police Commissioner and the Police Service for what they're doing on the curfew. It is working reasonably well, and I do want to thank the wider community for cooperation, and please continue to cooperate with the police as they deal with this curfew. But as I said, so far this is working very well. Secondly, I just want to come back to the testing. It's actually, I believe, really positive that today we have 48 negative tests. So we've now done over 160, and there is only one that we have a question mark over. And I do want to remind everybody that Public Health England were here to help us establish this testing system. We also were in touch with PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, which is the WHO of the Americas. So we can have confidence in our robust testing system. It's also the case that we have been testing all suspicious cases. So I think we need to take some comfort in that as well. But obviously, as the Premier has said as well, we do know that the curfew is hugely inconvenient, and we're asking a lot of people. But the next 10 days is absolutely crucial, and just urge everybody to do their bit and play their role and try and get us through this period and stop our people becoming ill, and we will be in a much better position. So just thank you to everyone for the continuing support and cooperation with what I believe are some very robust measures, which are exactly what is needed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister for Health.
Thank you. I'm sure there'll be another meme after I speak today. But good afternoon. Yes, Cayman Brock and Little Cayman. Even made fun of that. But I wanted to, because the whole country is on lockdown, I wanted to and I know it's different and difficult for some, I wanted to draw their attention to a song that was sung many years ago, We Are the World. I thought it was most befitting for them to listen to this on their own time. There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying. It's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. It goes on to say we all are a part of God's great big family. And the truth is, love is all we need. There's a choice we are making, and we're saving our own lives. So I thought that that would be something good for people to listen to. I want to say to the landlords, I ask you humbly to be socially conscionable during this time, and may God invoke love and compassion in your heart as we travel this road together. We've heard of some persons who were booted out of their apartments, and this is not really a good time for this to happen, but we've did all possible to try to ensure that these persons get a roof over their heads. This is worse than Ivan, ladies and gentlemen. as there's no other country to run to. We knew when Ivan would hit, but Corona may be amongst us and we don't even know. This virus spreads like wildfire, and God is our only refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. I say to you that if you feel the need for a fancier life of joy during this lockdown, then you are missing the point of staying alive. Let us pray and fast for the next few days. As I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from many fears, there will be a supernatural manifestation of God's divine power over COVID-19 in our region and country. I want to say to you all, when you think things are the worst here, in New Jersey, each of their hospitals only have 2 ventilators. That's how bad it is in New Jersey. And here in the Cayman Islands, and New Jersey has a population of 8.9 million people. We have a population of approximately 65,000 people, and we have over 40, and more are ordered and on the way. So I say to you, it is not all bad, and just keep praying for us as leaders. We've been having about 15 days now of press conferences, approximately. We are tired, but we are here, and the reward for us is for you to stay alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much also to members of the public who've been sending in their questions. Many of those and many of the questions from the media concern issues related to the curfew. So I think it would be a good time to invite Commissioner Byrne to update us on matters related to the curfew and its enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. So I'm very pleased to report that the policing service continues to operate on a very stable platform. Crime is all very stable and all very good. No spikes. 2 burglaries last night. That's the total of the crime commissions reported across the Cayman Islands. As it relates to the curfew implemented last night at 7 p.m, it's going very well, as has been addressed by the Governor. And just some statistics to give you an indication of the way things are going. We are out in large numbers across the islands, and I'm supported, I say thank you to Deputy Governor Manderson. I'm supported by the services of CBC and also enforcement officers from work and my colleagues in Special Constabulary. That allows us to put a large amount of cars out throughout the night and across the island. So last night in Grand Cayman, 30 vehicles were stopped. Everything went well there. 6 persons found to be in breach of curfew. 2 were arrested, 4 will be warned, or 4 have been warned for prosecution. And in Cayman Brac, 12 vehicles stopped, with the exception of 2 persons in breach of curfew, all complied as essential services. So I think we're doing pretty well across the islands in terms of the message. Just looking at the statistics from 7 a.m. this morning till just shortly before I came, our officers on patrol, they stopped 55 vehicles and we found 10 persons in breach of curfew warned for prosecution. So the appeal is to encourage people, please comply with the terms and the conditions of the curfew, which is an indoor curfew until Saturday morning at 5 a.m. when the matter will be reviewed. So the appeal is for the cooperation for all our persons across the Cayman Islands, and to thank the people that are working with us so well. The feedback from the officers is when they are speaking to people on the street, it's been very well received, and people do understand the requirement for the curfew.
Ralph Lewis, Cayman Times. Commissioner Byrne, can you say how many police units have been assigned to the eastern districts?
Yeah, so we have the normal police units which comprise of Bodden Town, North Side and East End. And between last night and tonight, there are additional 9 units operating in the Bodden Town district, which comprises North Side, East End and Bodden Town. So an additional 9 patrol vehicles static assigned to the district. And then we also have additional roving community policing support vehicles, and we have traffic support vehicles. And the helicopter, of course, has been providing vital support to that part of the island, providing us basically eyes in the sky.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Commissioner. Just to go back to the breaches that you talked about, were there any incidents of violence? I know yesterday you told us one related to violent encounter. How did it go last night?
Okay, thankfully again last night, no violent resistance, just a requirement to make 2 arrests on Grand Cayman because there were associated predicate offences.
Okay. Also, sorry. In terms of the curfew breaches, we got reports of people congregating still last night, heading into the curfew hours, in particular on Public Beach. Are there any plans to maybe create a hotline where people can report these incidents, or should they be calling 911 to report it? Can you provide some information on that?
It has been agreed through our NEAC processes that all reports will go through 999, and that has great advantage. All reports are centrally logged and police are dispatched. So there's a response from the police and then there's an update from the police in terms of the response. So the central collating repository from 911 is the appropriate manner in which to deal with calls.
We meant 911, yes.
Sorry, 911, sorry. Yes, sorry.
Thank you. In terms of the additional crimes, you talked about I think it was burglaries. How much of a drain is the patrolling on controlling the other crimes? I mean, I know you're out there and you have your numbers, so is there a message that you would like to send to any would-be idle hands?
Well, we're asking people to stay indoors. That's first of all, you commit a crime, but you're also in breach of the curfew. And we'll deal with it on that basis. Normal policing operations remain in place to deal with whatever might happen. And then all of these additional patrols that I've mentioned, which are police, CBC, work enforcement, and our special constables then are out to deal with the COVID-19 enforcement, the curfew. So nothing overwhelming for the police service. And as I said, everything is very calm and everything is very stable.
Thank you.
We have had one question come in to us from Cayman News Service for Dr. Lee regarding the 48 results that came back negative. She's asking if those results have been confirmed by CARFA at this stage.
No, there's no requirement to confirm them by CARFA. All of our results are results from the laboratory and taken as being the correct ones. We've got every confidence in the results that are coming out of our lab. We will continue, as we do for any laboratory service. We use reference methods to confirm as part of the quality control processes. And so every positive result and every 10th negative result will be sent to CARFA.
Thank you.
Kevin Morales, Cayman Compass. Dr. Lee, just following up on that, given the announcement yesterday that we did have that one false negative case, is there any consideration to send more than the 1 out of 10 negative tests for the quality control, which you just mentioned?
No, there aren't. There are technical reasons why that case potentially could have been an issue, but no, there aren't, because we have confidence in the laboratory. That particular case actually came up positive on the screening test, as we were talking about that yesterday.
Do we get to a point, well, first of all, before I get to this question, logistically, how many tests are we able to do right now?
You're right, it's dropping every day. It's around 100 in round figures that we have left. As you know, the doctors' hospitals should be able to be testing quite soon. They have some reagents which are en route but haven't arrived. We have several orders out. The lead time varies between a week to 3 weeks on them, and then until they actually arrive, we can't say they're here, especially with the restrictions on travel around the world.
Right. The reason I ask is I'm wondering if we ever get to a point, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, whenever, where we sort of, I guess, widen the net on the people that we test. If we start testing people who are asymptomatic and maybe go outside of current protocol.
Yes, certainly. I mean, if we were to have the abilities, we'd be able to think about how we could be more inventive and sort of like, could we release people by doing wider testing? And absolutely, just like they have done in different countries have followed different processes, but just like they have done in Korea, and they've used testing as their means of trying to get out of their explosion, which they have very successfully done. Other countries like Hong Kong and Singapore have used different methods. So if we had that ability, yes, we would definitely consider it, and would set up a protocol to know how to use that in order to benefit all of us.
Okay. A couple more for you, if you don't mind. Specifically about the people who are working with the patients who have a positive case. We know that Health City, 30 people were in isolation. At HSA, I believe it was 14, and those are just off of a handful of cases. Should there be more that come in, is it a concern at all that we, I guess, might run out of healthcare workers who could tend to the patients at that point because they would have to be in isolation?
I mean, that's always a concern. However, we have to look at the country's resources, and the country's resources are good. So although we had an incident in one area and then an incident in another, both of those were contained, and the country as a whole has the resources because we have a lot of capacity in healthcare in Cayman. So I have every confidence. We haven't even started to tap on the private, the wider private sector and so on.
And for those healthcare workers who are still tending to the patients, what do they do to protect themselves?
The details of that I would leave to the individual hospitals to answer, but they follow. I mean, I know that all the hospitals are reading avidly all of the information that they've either received through shared emails or they've received through their own research, and they're following all the processes that are internationally approved. We also had people come from, when Public Health England came, they came and talked about infection prevention and control. We have sessions on infection prevention and control that are being pushed out to us from PAHO, from the World Health Organization, and from Public Health England, and we are inviting all of the professionals to join in and to make sure their skills are up to date. And there are not only web-based stuff, but there's physical training about how to manage the infection prevention and control issues. So the staff are on the ready for this and are practicing good infection prevention and control as we speak.
Thank you very much.
Could I just add on the materials we need for testing, because the UK government has committed to help all the overseas territories with this, and we have sourced through Crown agents some of the materials that we need for this. So the question, of course, is now how to get them here, given that the airport is closed, which is why I've been emphasising the importance of an air bridge between the UK and the overseas territories. Work on that continues, and we will be doing absolutely everything we can from a UK perspective and here to get those materials that we need here as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This question is for Dr. Lee. Without giving any personal information, are the patients who tested positive housed or isolated in health facilities?
No, 2 of the patients are in the community. The ones that I reported yesterday, they were travellers, and they had isolated themselves when they came back, as per the request, and they continue to be isolated and followed by public health.
And to follow up, are you comfortable that they're following protocol in their communities where they're isolated?
I haven't received any reports to the contrary from public health.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Lisa Rankin-Salins, Radio Cayman. How is the civil service handling the transition from work to home?
Well, we have the Deputy Governor here, so why don't we invite the Deputy Governor up to answer that one.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am very proud to see the seamless transition from working, carrying out your normal duties at your desk to working at home. I think it's going very well. We took a lot of time and effort to ensure long time ago that our business continuity plans were robust. We have sort of put them in place for hurricanes, so they weren't actually made for a pandemic, but we have adjusted, and I'm very pleased that it's going very well. Just today, I was informed that by our judicial administration that persons can now pay their traffic tickets online. So we're continuing to move so that we don't actually have to be at work. The response that I've gotten from civil servants has been fantastic. They have adjusted to being away from the office, and the reports that I've gotten from the public has also been very good. Everyone seems to be pleased with the transition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This one is for the Premier. I know you said you're preparing the list and you'll be sending out the list, but we had a query come in if banks will be allowed to operate on Saturday so that people can have access to their finances.
Yes, but only from 9 to 1.
Okay, thank you.
We've had, as I mentioned earlier, several questions come in related to the curfew. Many of those answers can be already found on our frequently answered questions page. That's on gov.ky/coronavirus. One that seems to be coming up an awful lot, if we could just ask the Premier or perhaps the Commissioner to clarify for the avoidance of doubt the rules concerning individual stratas versus public streets.
Individual stratas are fine. Those are not public spaces for the purposes of the regulations or the curfew order. So if you live on a strata or live in a strata, you are welcome, permitted to walk around the strata. What you're not permitted to do is to have access to the pool for other reasons, and that's been done under a separate set of regulations. But places like pools are off limits for the length of the curfew.
Any further questions from the media? Sorry, Ralph, go ahead.
Two questions for the Premier, sir. Just to clarify with the curfew and those people on the exempted list, is it for the duration between 5 and 7? For example, those food vendors who are delivering, or can they deliver after 7?
No, food vendors are allowed to deliver up until 9 o'clock. Okay. But service, well, actually no one should be going out now during this curfew period. But even when we move to the next arrangement, all of those places would be required to close at 6. But for present, they're able to deliver food up until 9 o'clock, and that'll be the case going forward as well, beyond Saturday.
Okay, the next question is regarding finances, and I'll delay those questions till maybe next week when we've gotten over this curfew period. But my question is, will you be inviting a representative from the Banks Association to sit on the panel so we can ask some questions and then maybe can clarify the plans to assist the community? Because right now we get a lot of questions as to how they're going to move forward. They have confidence in the medical society that they're doing what they should do to get us through that this phase, but what happens in the next week and a half? And there are many concerns regarding finances for small business and individuals, and we need some direct answers from the Banks Association as to how they're going to assist. And so do you have plans to invite one of those members on the panel to answer some questions next week, probably?
Well, I didn't have any such plans, but I will certainly ask them if they'd like to come along.
Okay, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
We have no further questions. If the panel would like to add any closing thoughts?
Well, thank you. This has been an easy one. Just to say that tomorrow Cabinet will make the regulations, putting in place the new regime. And then, as I said before, we'll be able to go through it in some detail. So what we will have will be the shelter-in-place provisions, which will sort of overarch the current curfew arrangements. And come Saturday morning, the curfew will revert to the previous night's timing. So it'll be from 7 p.m. until 5, when everybody is off the streets for all purposes except truly essential matters. And then the shelter-in-place provisions will pick up at 1 minute past 5 and run through the rest of the day, all the way through to next week, Friday. But we'll explain that in a bit more detail tomorrow with the benefit and assistance of the Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you very much. We'd like to draw your attention to gov.ky/coronavirus, in particular a page there entitled Getting Assistance. That's where you can find all helplines for your medical, non-medical, mental health, human services, and emergency travel concerns. Thank you very much.
From Radio Cayman, you've been listening live to a government press briefing with a COVID-19 update.
A public service announcement from Radio Cayman. Coronavirus prevention tip. What is coronavirus? The novel coronavirus, COVID-19, is a new strain of coronavirus that has not been previously identified in humans. What are the symptoms? Common symptoms include respiratory symptoms of fever, cough, shortness of breath, breathing difficulties. In severe cases, coronavirus can cause pneumonia, severe acute respiratory syndrome, and kidney failure. How soon do symptoms occur? Symptoms occur 2 to 10 days after a person has been exposed. Is there a vaccine against coronavirus? Currently, there is no vaccine to protect against COVID-19. When a disease is new, it takes up to a few years for a new vaccine to be developed. For information, you can email questions to flu@hsa.ky or call one of the hotline numbers of 1-800-534-8600 or 947-3077. For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/coronavirus.
The Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS, is providing the following non-emergency numbers for weekdays: 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please call 925-5120 or 926-6853, Grand Cayman, and 929-7932, Cayman Brac. For the department's critical services assistance, including child protection by the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, call 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545 or email mash@gov.ky. To access critical services supporting the protection of the elderly, email DCFS Elderly Services @gov.ky. For emergencies, please call 911.
Voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.